Well, good afternoon. Happy Saturday. Hope everybody's having had a good start to their weekend. Um, we are currently working on our Geese Around the Crazy Heart, and this is what we've done so far. I've got the two borders sewn on, and I've got the third border done. We're gonna do the fourth border. I was going to go ahead and do it ahead of time, but I know there's some people who didn't get to join us during the week, and I kind of wanted to show them how we get started here. So we're going to make this fourth border today and get it sewn on. I have all my pieces cut, and they're stacked here in numerical order. This is number one. This is the last one up on the top. So I don't have to think anymore. I can just sit here and sew and talk, talk, talk. So, and then these are my two background pieces. I'm doing a little bit different. I think we talked about it the other day. I have never done it where I have done like one color in the center and a different color on the outside. I kind of thought this would be a fun one to try that with. And so far, I am liking it. So we're going to go ahead and finish it that way. So we're going to start with fabric piece number one, the big half square triangle, and we're going to set it on our board or our table with the wrong side facing up. This is pretty much how you start every block. We're going to set the foundation on top. When it's like this, first of all, you want to be able to read the printing on the foundation. It's very important. Not so much on this one, but most every other block we make, it is very important. So just get in the habit of always being able to read the printing that's on the foundation. Otherwise, you're going to get the reverse image of what you want. Okay, we want to have about 1/4 of an inch fabric going past the line, but this is space one. This is, whoops, guess it'd help if I showed you. This is space one. This is space two. This is space three. And these two lines are the lines where we'll sew piece number two on here, piece number three here. So you want to set it so you have about 1/4 of an inch of fabric going past both lines. And then instead of just pinning it, I take it to the machine and I run a line of stitching in the seam allowance. It's between the solid line and the dotted line. And that's going to hold it in place. And when you're done, it will have your fabric and your foundation will be attached well, so you won't get any distortion. Sometimes when you have a stretch of fabric and foundation and they're not attached to each other, especially corners, you can, when you go to sew it to your border block or another block, if it's not attached, it could distort slightly, but better safe than sorry. So then after you have basted that to the bottom, we're going to turn it over so the right side of your fabric. And I'm going to take a background piece, and in this case, number two is the light one because it's going to be on the inside or the center, towards the center of the quilt. And I was explaining the other day that when you're putting a light color over a dark color, you match the edges like this, and then just scoot it up just a couple of threads past the dark fabric underneath. And that's so that after you sew it on and you open it up, you won't get a bit of a shadow from the dark fabric underneath. So we put a pin back away from where we're going to sew. And we're going to stitch on the line. Glad you like the videos. And I'm always open to suggestions. What you'd like to see, how you'd like to see me improve. Now that I'm getting the technical aspect of it, if I could keep my camera following me, we're going to start doing, I want to do projects that like 3 days each week, Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday, work on the same project from start to finish, and line it up, give you guys an itinerary kind of what projects we're going to work on. So if you want to follow along, you can be ready to go. Now we're going to take fabric piece number 3, and that is the dark one. We're going to line those edges up, and we just sort of center the ends. Put a pin back here where I'll be sewing up here. So put the pin back so when you turn it over, you aren't going to run over your pin. And you start where the line starts and go all the way out to the end where the line stops. And remember, we're using a regular stitch length here because we're going to leave this foundation in. You won't know it's in your quilt, but you'll be amazed at how square your quilt stays. It doesn't add any weight or bulk. When you're quilting, you won't notice it's in there, except that your quilt will stay square all the way through the quilting process. And then we're going to take it to the cutting mat and open that up and press it. And I do use a little steam. I have my iron set on the lowest setting where I can still get a little steam. And that is just personal preference. I like to get really super flat seams. Helps make this nice and crisp. And if you're getting perfect points, you want all your seams to lay nice and flat. But however, or whatever it takes to get a good flat seam. Okay, so now we're trimming the 1/4 inch down to a 1/4 inch seam allowance. To add piece number 4, use our add a 1/4 ruler. Only tool you need, besides a rotary cutter, I mean, you need regular sewing supplies, but it's the only thing you need special for doing this kind of work. Okay, we're going to take fabric piece number 4. We're going to line it up edges even with that edge that we just trimmed. And I still say, after all these years, I still like to pin. It just makes it easier to get it to the machine and not have it move on you. And if you guys want to see any particular things, or if you're working on something and you have a question, you can send me an email at deb@easypiecing.com, and I'll try to address your questions. And if we need to do a little demo of how to achieve what it is you're looking for, that would be awesome, because I'm sure if you have a question, you're not alone. So that'll be a fun little thing to add to this so that we can keep you moving and having fun. So this weekend, I'm going to put together a schedule of projects that I'd like to do for the rest of the month. Okay, now on this one, and most blocks you don't get to do this, but on this one, because I guess it's concentric, is that the word? Anyway, because adding piece number 5 does not interfere with adding piece number 6. You can trim both sides. I generally, in my classes, say okay, trim for piece number 5 and sew it on, then trim for piece 6. But when you can cut down on your time, I'm all for that. So on this one I'm showing you, I cut both sides of the goose, so that then I can add the 2 pieces of background, one after the other. And it saves me a trip to the cutting mat. Okay, so we're going to do the light one on this side. Now, when I'm doing this, when I go to line it up, the point of this piece here, the background, the one I'm adding, I line it up edges even, and then I look down here to the point, and I like to line it up with the seam line. That way I know I've got it centered. And if you're off a little bit, it doesn't really matter. But hey, if you got a little guide there, go for it. So is anybody doing anything special this weekend? We had plans for working out in the garden, but the rain kind of took those plans away. We were having gorgeous weather, and out of the blue, yesterday we started having rain, and it turned a little cold again. I thought we were full-blown spring, but I guess not. And I guess tonight we're supposed to have a lot more rain, so won't be working in the garden for the next couple of days. We did get all the avocados picked the other day. Oh my goodness, it's just so much fun. Our avocado trees are about 8 or 9 years old, and it did take almost 7 years. This is the first super good crop that we've ever had. And it looks like next year will be the same. All the buds are on there. It's so exciting. It's like watching your children grow when you've nursed these trees along. They're my babies. I usually do these on all the rest of my geese around the crazy heart that I've done. I did the colors in the geese just random. Just made sure I didn't have the same color 2 spaces in a row. And this time I decided to make all 4 strips exactly the same. Just because I'm changing the background pieces to being a dark and a light inside now, I thought, well, let's make the colors go in the same order on all 4 sides. Always something you can do to change it up, and especially when you make the same one numerous times. The other day I was talking about thinking it would be cool to make a baby blanket or a quilt, crib quilt, whatever, and just using all pastels, not making the hearts any one particular, well, actually you could, you could do like a lavender heart, a pink heart, a blue heart, yellow heart, with a bunch of different fabrics of each color in there. Or you could just do, I think I decided I would do 12 blocks. You could do all of them just multicolored, so there's no pattern to them. If you got enough scraps, you could do that. So it got me thinking. I have friends that just had a new grandson. That just might be something I'll be doing here in the not too distant future. As soon as I can find time. So anyway, putting the schedule together for the next rest of this month at least. Like I say, if there's anything that you guys want to see or learn, any little technique or tips or anything, let me know and we'll throw that in. I think I might do something like in the talking and not thinking, in the middle of the show, maybe about 1 o'clock, we'll take a little break from whatever the project is that we're working on, and I'll answer questions or show a technique somebody's asked for and help you out that way. And we don't have any shows scheduled till the fall, and we haven't set that schedule definite yet. So, but I am doing guild. I'm doing trunk shows and lectures at different guilds. And if you've got a guild, if you belong to a guild and want to have me come, and I do trunk shows and workshops. We usually try to do them both on the same trip, but you can either contact me or Laura about that, or have your program chairman contact us, and we'll see if we can't fit you into the schedule. I really like doing the videos, but there's nothing quite like getting out and actually interacting with everybody. Just a lot more fun. I mean, this is as much sociable as it, or social as it is anything else. I love interacting with other quilters. I learn stuff all the time. You never want to quit learning. Okay, we're moving along here. I'm going to get these two borders sewn on, and then I am going to show you guys how I make my bias bindings. I was thinking I was going to do some fancy stitch work by hand, embellishing this, but I'm kind of liking it the way it is. It looks kind of old-fashioned. Whoops. Felt that turn under there. And you know, unlike paper, first of all, if I was doing this with paper, I wouldn't have noticed that that corner was tipped or folded under. So that would have meant having to take stitching out. And of course, when you're doing paper, you're using little tiny stitches, and I hated taking those out. I'd get so frustrated when I was paper piecing. I'd just toss the darn thing away and start over again, which was really wasteful. What a waste of my time and material. But with this one, if I had not noticed that this corner was flipped under, and sewed it, it'd be no big deal. to take the stitching out and just reuse this. It's sort of self-healing. Oh, those points. That's just so exciting. I love it. Still, after all these years, I get so excited and so proud of those points. And I'll tell you that I talk about the pressing. It's so important. I think I mentioned this the other day that I did a class back in Virginia, and I had requested irons for the class, or enough outlets so my students could bring their own irons and I bring extra irons. But they had not made arrangements for that, so we did not have irons in our class. And I wanted to cancel the class, to tell you the truth, because we were working on some very fine points. And it was an advanced class, so it was really important. And that, the whole point was to do curved piecing and to do points where a couple of fabrics come together and then go into a point, and you want them right there in the center, even. And with no irons, it just made it, nobody could figure out. I mean, a few got it, but so many were having trouble getting that perfect point. They were close. And they were sewing on the line, but I realized that they weren't getting their fabric open all the way and pressing it nice and flat. And that makes your points not quite perfect. So I did tell them, when you go home, make sure you press everything super, super, super good. Especially something like that where there's no room for air if you want your points to be perfect. I'll have to dig that quilt out that I taught and show you. How important it is. Even this, it's important, because if I didn't have this flat up here, if I just kind of let it like that, and then I sew over it, first of all, they're not going to meet where they're supposed to, and this wouldn't be nice and flat. So pressing, I know a lot of people want to just finger press, and in my class, I normally do not, sound terrible. I don't usually allow finger pressing, because if you get in that habit, then when it's super important to have it pressed nice and crisp, you'll think finger pressing is okay, and then you're not going to get quite as good of results. Now, what you do at home is, I have no control over that, and that's not my business. But when you take a class from me, or like on these lives, I want to show you the right way to do it, the way we have found we get the best results, and you can take it from there. If you want to do it exactly the same way, that's fine. If you find an easier way and you're happy with your results, that's all I care about. I want you to enjoy the process. I mean, why would anybody have a hobby they didn't enjoy? So that's my goal. I don't know about the rest of you, but sewing is just the best form of relaxation. Well, other than maybe a hot tub and a glass of wine, but if I don't sew for a couple of days, my husband will notice I'm a little crankier than normal, and he'll tell me, honey, go sew. Surely you have something you can go sew. Oh, what a joke. There's way too much. But he'll tell me. And when we first got married, I did that with him. He was a motorcycle. He raced motorcycles when I met him. We got married, and if he went a couple weekends without riding, he would get grumpy. call your buddies, go racing or go riding on the weekend. And he'd come home, he'd be just so happy, and everything was great. And now he notices that with me, with my sewing. If I'm not sewing something, I'm not happy. I couldn't imagine life without sewing or knitting, some kind of needlework. Oh, and you guys, have a couple years ago, my husband surprised Laura and I. He bought us a very nice embroidery machine. And I think Laura had it for about a year and just hadn't got a chance. She'd gotten busy and hadn't had a chance to use it. So we were visiting them one time, and I happened to have room in the truck, and I said, "Hey, Laura, I'm going to take that machine home and see if I can't learn how to run it and do some things." Well, I've had it for probably a little over a year, and I haven't touched it. So part of this long, expansive time of being home and not doing shows, I am determined I am going to sit down and learn how to run it. And I'm kind of excited about it. Open up a bunch of new doors. And another thing I want to share with you guys later in the month is, before I developed this product, I did art quilts. And when I say, it was like 20, 25 years ago that I was doing these. And I was a little early on the art quilt thing. I would go to enter one of them in a competition, and they told me it wasn't a quilt. It qualified with all the things that qualify thing to be a quilt, is 3 layers sandwiched or whatever, and they wouldn't call it art. They wouldn't call it a quilt. So then I developed this product, and I haven't really had time to do the art quilts. But I have been thinking about perhaps starting in again. So I will probably start sharing some of my art quilts, the few I have left, and see if there's any interest in me teaching classes. We could do classes online. Now that they are a huge part of the quilting world. And I was totally self-taught. Had no idea when I started what I was doing. But I know I really enjoyed it, and I loved the finished product. If you want to see some pictures of them, they're on the website under Debbie's Designs. And but I'll bring them down to the studio and share a couple every now and then with you, see what you think. And I've been working on some ideas for some classes. So we'll see. We'll see if there's any interest. So we use the same product for our base, so it fits in perfectly. And of course, I did a lot of thread painting. I loved that aspect of it. You don't have to do that, but it certainly brings them more to life. A lot of fun. Hey guys, I'm getting close to being done here. Yay. Oh, and I started embellishing the red, white, and blue one. I took it off of the canvas frame. I decided I'm just going to make it as a regular. I'll put a sleeve in the back, but I got a few little rhinestones. I don't know if they show up here or not. Probably not. Can't get the light to shine right. But I got a few rhinestones in the heart, and I was going through my all the stuff I have for embellishing, and I have a lot of red, white, and blue buttons, mini buttons, star buttons, all kinds of things. So I thought, oh, you know what? I want to embellish it before it goes on the frame, and then I thought, I don't even want to put it on the frame. So I sat this morning and took it off the frame, so I'll have to do new binding on it, but that's okay. I like it. I like it very much, so excited to get it done and hung up at the house. This really does go pretty fast. You know, and when you're making all four borders exactly the same, it would be much easier to just chain piece, you know, to do the same piece on all four at one time. You could stack your fabrics up that way so that you could do that too. And then when you get done with one, you got all four done. So remember, line this up, this point here, up with that seam line. And now this is a real dark piece I'm putting this over, so I'm going to just scoot that up a little bit, a couple threads worth, so I won't get a shadow. When I open this up, you won't have that black showing underneath. And another thing, if you're working with a really light fabric, and if you set it on the foundation, put it on a white table or background, or just put a piece of paper under it, and make sure you cannot see the numbers or the printing on your foundation through your fabric. If you think it might possibly show through as you're going, all you got to do is clip the number out. Just take a little pair of scissors. I'll do that on this one just to show you how I do it. So if this was a real light fabric and I opened it up and this number was going to show, all I do is, after I sewed the piece on, is just fold this and snip that out, just like that. Got a hole there, but you'll never see the hole, and it won't ruin your foundation. Just open that up. And if your light color is over the seam allowance where there's printing, do the same thing. Once you sew it on here, or sew it on here, open it up, look to see if you can see the printing underneath, if it's going to show through. And if it is, when you sew this to whatever is going, you know, up here, if it's another block, if it's another row of flying geese, or if it's sashing, whatever, when you sew this on, then just take your seam ripper after you've stitched it and just go along the seam line and take the foundation part out. I think the general instructions in all of our packages tell you that, but just don't want you to make a whole quilt and have that show through, because these are printed, actually dyed. It's a fabric dye. It's not just like an ink on top that would eventually fade. This is a permanent fabric dye, like you dye your fabric, you know, like the fabrics are printed with. That's how this actually came about. We had, for about 25 years, we had a small run digital fabric printing company. So I'm down to the last two. Yay. Okay, we're going to trim this down to our 1/4 inch. Add a quarter ruler. Definitely, definitely, definitely want to have an add a quarter ruler. It's funny at quilt shows, we ask people when they buy a pattern, do you have an add a quarter ruler? Because my instructions show using it. And so many times I hear, I've got one of those. I didn't know how to use it or what it was for, but I got one. And I just think that's so cute. So it's really the only tool you need. Goes with your rotary cutter, and it just makes trimming this so much easier. Um, the blocks in the Dutch Beauty do come. You can either get a Dutch Beauty refill, which is just the blocks, no instructions, or you can order packages of the 3 blocks that are in it. They're the New York Beauty, the Dutchman's Puzzle, and Courthouse Steps. And I believe they come in packages. Oh, don't quote me. You can look on the website of either 8 in a package or 12 in a package. I'm thinking 12. So if you wanted to make, well, 12 of each would give you 4 Dutch Beauty patterns, or a good size quilt if you used them all. Be what, 24 blocks, 12, 36 blocks. So, yes, there's all different ways you can get them. Oh, good. Well, I hope the class is going well. Where are you? Are you at a shop or a guild? Well, I guess you did say at a quilt store. Well, that's great. Send me pictures. And Denise, I loved your pineapple blossom quilt. It turned out beautiful. Okay. I don't know if you remember, but well, some of you weren't here on Tuesday, but when I added these borders, the first 2 borders, I had this piece still as the light fabric, not realizing that it needed the dark one there to continue the dark around the edge. So I did correct that one and this first one. So don't think I'm messing up when I do the next one, and they're both dark fabrics. was one of the little things I didn't think through when I decided to do two-color background. Let's see. And now we're going to go on. Well, I got to press this one first, but then my favorite part, the last part, the last block. And this quilt is just done from my stash. I probably, when I say my stash, it's like when I, I buy fabrics to kit quilts. And when I can no longer get the fabric to continue kitting it, there's always parts of bolts left over. And I call it my stash. It's separate from my personal stash. Although I notice in going through the drawers with my personal stash, there's a lot of them I snuck in from my studio fabrics. But anyway, I probably could get a few of these kits put together if anybody's interested. I do have mini bolts of Kansas Trouble fabrics that we just might play with. In fact, that's what some of these are, a couple of them. Okay, now both of these background pieces are going to be the dark fabric. Sway there. That's what happens when I don't look at what I'm doing. And I am a freak about cutting my threads. You know, one time I did a quilt and I had a friend who, I knew her at our local bank. And she was always interested in what I was doing. And one time I took a little quilt in and she says, okay, friend's beautiful. She says, now the telltale sign is, what does it look like on the back? How neat is it? Well, I don't know. Fortunately, because I am such a freak about keeping all my threads cut and everything, the back looked great. She was most impressed. And that, for some reason, has just stuck with me. so I never mind if people look at the back side of my blocks or my quilts. Okay, that was my favorite piece. Yay. Now, a little tip that I have just started doing in the last year or two is when I get all done, I want to give this a good little press on the back side. I like to press it real well, and then I'm going to run a line of stitching all the way around between the solid line and the broken line. It really doesn't need it down the sides because everyone has stitching that runs all the way out to the broken line. Up here at the top, though, it's not attached at all. And I just find this all started from when I would do demos at quilt shows and people were handling my demoed blocks, that the fabric would start maybe fraying a little bit, look worn, and when I would go to sew them together, the corners, they were a little they weren't attached to the fabric, so when I would go to sew them, you had to be very careful to keep the integrity of the block so it didn't distort. Well, so I started doing this just for my demo blocks, and I really liked when I went to sew things together. I really liked that everything was joined, and that it kept it from getting distorted. And I know it's a couple extra minutes, but it's so worth it. And of course, you couldn't do that if you were paper piecing. Let's see. Oh, that's too bad. I'm sorry that are you back to quilting? Yeah, sadly, a lot of quilt shops are going out of business. The internet has changed the way we shop. And me personally, I like to see my fabrics in person, feel them. As I say, I tell people when they come into my booth at a quilt show, you're welcome to fondle my quilts. I need to see the fabric in person. The only way I'll order fabric online is if it's something I already have or have had and know the quality and know the color, because things don't always show up on your computer like they are in person. But it is sad that that internet sales are really cutting into quilt shops' profits. And let's face it, none of us are in business to give things away. And I do understand it is so convenient to shop online. I do a lot of shopping online because we are out in the country, and it makes every trip to the town is a half a day just to run to the store for something. So I do understand the convenience of shopping online, but there's nothing like going in person. And it's like I can order, you can order something online and go pick it up at the store. I would never let anybody else shop for my meats or vegetables. It's like fabric. I want to see it. And can't do that by having other people shop for you. If I mean, there's times or circumstances where you don't have a choice. But if at all possible, I want to do it myself. And I have to tell you, I truly hate shopping. Grocery shopping. I'll shop for fabric any day. Just tell me when and where. And yes, I do believe we should support our local quilt shops. I myself don't have a brick and mortar store. I have my studio here, and we have a manufacturing facility where we print and package all of our patterns. Okay, guys, there's the 4th border done. Now we're going to put them on the quilt. So this one, because all 4 are exactly the same, we're doing a partial seam, which I have done up here. So now we go this way because this will fit completely on this edge. So I'm going to put right sides together, make sure the geese are going in the right direction. You want them all flying in a circle. So I'm going to match the end, put a pin in it. And then it's very important, we want to match this point of the goose with this point over here. So I'm going to put a pin in. I don't know. I'm going to try to get this as close up as possible. I put a pin right where this seam, this line of stitching, this line of stitching, and this line that this is the line I'm going to be sewing on, right where they all come together. Put a pin in there, then I pull it back, and I want to put my pin right there where this line of stitching and this line of stitching, whoops, can you see that? Where this line of stitching and this line of stitching come together, right there at that point. Put my pin right there. Put my fabrics together even, and then you want to hold your pin perpendicular, straight across. If I rocked it like we're so prone to do, you can see that's throwing my edges off, which means it's throwing my seam line off, so my points won't be perfect. So keep it straight across, bring another pin in, and pin it in place. And this goes for traditional piecing as well as this. And I'm going to put a pin in here. And then we're going to go down here, and we're going to match the end. And then this, I want to put a pin in there to keep that seam allowance going the right direction. That's seam allowance there, so we'll put a pin in. And then we're going to put a pin in the middle someplace here. Just to keep the edges even. Okay. Oops. And we're just going to sew in that line. This is the side. You want to sew in the line on the border foundation that you're adding. Because if we sew right down here on this line, these side points of your flying geese are going to be perfect. you won't be cutting them up. Keep my edges even. Keep that seam allowance going the right direction there. That right there. I get up as close as I can to that pin before I pull it out. Okay, let's open that up and see. Oh, perfect point. Perfect. Love it. Threads. I'm so careful, but the threads from the fabric still have to bother me. Now, on this one, we're going to put our seam allowance in so we don't have the bulk that way. We want to stitch that towards the middle. And I will give it a really good pressing before we get ready to quilt it. Oh, that's perfect. Oh, that's always so fun. I'll use my big steam iron when I get the whole thing put together. And then we're going to get ready here to put our last side on. And again, my geese have to go this way because we want them to go this way so they can come on around, and they're going to fly in a circle. So we're going to fold this back where we did the partial seam with the first row of border. I don't know where my clips are. Anyway, we'll put that out of the way. So then we're going to do just like we did the last one. We're going to match that end right there. And then we're going to come down and we want to match. Put this in the light where you can see. We're going to match that point right there with this point on the other piece. Keep that pin straight. You don't want to rock the pin because you'll rock the fabric with it and lose the point. Just like that. And then we'll come down here, match our corners. And then I'll pin it a couple places along here, just to keep it the edges even. And I don't have a seam allowance here. Pull that up. Oops, sorry. I'll get better, I promise. Okay. Make sure my seam's laying flat there. Like I say, I stitch up as close to that pin as I can to make sure my point stays good. My threads. Okay, and that point came out beautiful. All these points came out great. Okay, we're gonna press this. Remember, you want to press it so your seam allowance goes towards the center of the quilt. If we did it the other way, we would have double thickness here, and there's what, 1, 2, 3 layers, so you'd end up with 6 layers of fabric. Don't want to do that. Sometimes I press my seams open. It just depends on the quilt. Awesome. Okay, now we're going to go back to our partial seam. This is what we've got now. We're going to turn this over. And we got to match this point up again, right here where the two seams and the seam line come together with that point underneath. I don't know, I hope I can get this so you, with that point right there, put a pin in it and hold it straight. Hold it straight just like that. And then come in here and use a second pin to hold it in place. And then we'll match our corner. Okay, so now we just have to sew part of this seam. Let's see, we are right. We ended our stitching right about in here, so I'm going to just go over some of that that's already done. And we'll just pull the pin out. And guess what? We got to give it a press. And this top, where's my, oh, come on, there we are. give it a pressing, and this top is done. Oh, that looks good. Okay, awesome, awesome. It's kind of bulky right there at that point. So when I get the big iron out before I get it quilted, and I will show you how I mark my quilts, just for the heck of it. So there we go. Let's see if I can get the whole thing in the picture. If I would. Well, somehow I'm all caught up here. But anyway, there is our finished quilt top. And I'm really thinking it doesn't need to be, I don't know, I just don't know. What do you think? So, I want to show you how I make my binding. And I don't remember where or when I learned to do this, but of all the ways I've tried, it is the way that works the best for me. So what you want to do is you want to measure the outer distance all the way around your quilt. This one is 21 and a half, 21 and a half, anyway, 21 times 4. So that would be 82. Then you want to take, I'll give you, on our website, there is the math for doing it is on there, on how, there's the whole little formula thing for how to figure out how big of a piece you need to make bias binding. So take the distance around your quilt, multiply that by how wide you cut your binding. I cut mine at 2 1/4 inches. So 80 inches times 2.25 came out to 180 square inches of fabric I need. And the hard part, but on our phones, if you, there is a square root button on our phones on the calculator part. If you just hit the square root sign and then put in 180, it comes out to 13.4 inches. Well, I don't want to skimp, so I figured I had for this one, I had a fat quarter to use. I would just go up to 18 inches. I'm going to have extra binding left over, but that's okay. I have a box of binding that I do. You know, if I make a coaster or a pot holder, I'll dig through there and find a binding that matches. It's all, you know, that way it's already done. But anyway, 18 inches. So I took my fat quarter and I cut an 18-inch square. Move that out of the way. Here is my 18-inch square. And I marked, you can barely see it, but I marked a diagonal line from corner to corner. So I'm going to cut on that line. I'm not going to round my corners on this quilt, but I still prefer bias binding. It wears much better. Okay, so then I've got it. I've got my square is cut. I'm going to turn this one over. And then I'm going to take this piece and I'm going to turn it so I have 2 straight edges. even like that. Put those edges together, just like that, just like that. And the points should go just slightly past the edge. This top one goes past on the left. This one goes on the right. The bottom one goes out on the right. So I don't know why I always think of it as an M, but that's what it should look like. And then I'm going to take it to the machine, and I'm going to stitch 1/4 of an inch or thereabouts. It doesn't matter. Let me move my needle over. Hi, Peggy. I hope everybody's having a good start to the weekend. Thought it was so exciting last night to watch the Artemis 2 land. Brought back a lot of memories from when I was a young girl watching him land on the moon. Okay, then I open this. I press this seam open. And then this is where you might want to have a bigger table. I'm gonna do this right here. You want to lay this out like this. The long, okay, because this edge here is your bias edge now. This was your straight of the grain. So now you have your bias, and it really is much easier if you have a big surface where you can just lay it out and not have to move it. I'm going to try to do it here for you. Now, I want to take a marker, and you can use, I use a fine point permanent marker. You can use a heat erasable or water erasable. I don't recommend the heat erasable because you are going to be pressing this before you cut it. So I'm going to measure I like my borders 2 1/4 inch, or my binding 2 1/4 inches. So I've got 1, 2 1/4 here. Line that 2 1/4 inch mark up with the straight edge, bias edge, and then I'm just going to mark this. And then slip it on down so I can get the rest of it. 2 1/4 inches all the way down. Mark that. And then I'm going to move it up, and I'm going to put my 2 1/4 inch mark on that line I just drew. If I can see where it is over here. There we are. And draw another line all the way out to the end over that open seam allowance. Slide it down. 2 1/4 on the line here underneath, and just keep drawing it. This will keep you from having to join all those strips. This will end up being a continuous bias binding strip. And there is a video on YouTube, on our page on YouTube, to show you how to do this. Okay, then we're going to move up and we're going to do another one. 2 1/4 inches from that line I just drew. Slide it down. Okay. And 2 1/4. Let's see. 2 1/4, 2 1/4. Okay. This kind of dark fabric. Maybe I should have used I don't know, there's light in here too though. I don't know if you can see it, but I can, so. Okay, now this last one, instead of marking it, I am going to trim it. 2 1/4. 2 1/4. So I can't get another 2 1/4, so I might as well just cut that off. And then slide it down and go the whole way. 2 1/4 on my last line. Keep that even. Throw that away. Okay, now we got to make 2 more markings on the ends. We're going to do a 1/4 inch for our seam allowance. And on the other end, a 1/4 inch. I'm going to go all the way down here. Okay. Then we're going to take it and we're going to flip it right sides together. And this looks so awkward. But what we're going to do is we're going to offset it. So I go in, here's my 1/4 inch line going this way and the 2 1/4 inch line going this way. That's the first one from the end. I'm going up to the second one here, right there. And I'm going to go to the other end that's underneath, and I'm going to match that point to the first cross section. See, this is our end here. This is the first 2 1/4 inch line. So I'm going to match those two. And pin that together. And then I come back down here and I'll pin, because this cross point right here, this one, that's the 2 1/4 inch line. This is the 1/4 inch line going across. This point right here is right at the very end of the one underneath. So I'm going to come in just a little bit and pin it. And then I'm going to go down, back down the other way, and I'm going to match the next intersection with the next intersection on the back, which is right there. And pin. And do it again with, well, this intersection right there. There we go. Yep. And then this one is the end of the top piece, and it should meet with this intersection on the bottom piece. So just put those together, put a pin in it, and then I'm going to take it to the machine. And I'm going to sew on the line I marked, the 1/4 inch line. Make sure you keep your fabrics flat underneath. Uh-oh, I ran out of thread in my bobbin. Hate that. You see what my little bowl that we're going to work on next week, I found a perfect use for it. All my little sewing machine parts. Yay. That's one of the projects we're going to do next week. Whoops. Come on. There we go. Finish this last little bit. I'm sure glad it didn't happen any sooner than that. And I want to keep that seam allowance open there. Okay. And I can cut that little, what do they call it, dog ear? Dog leg? What dog ear? Anyway, whatever, that little triangular piece there. Okay, now it's going to be a tube. And I'm going to press that seam allowance open as well. Like that. And then we're going to take our scissors. Now, one time I had a small cutting mat that would fit inside this tube, and I could actually cut it with a rotary cutter. But what we're going to do now is we're going to follow those lines that were every 2¼ inches, and we're just going to cut around this circle on the line, and you'll end up with one long strip of binding. That's how simple it is. And these are not my fabric scissors, I don't think. Oops. I won't do all this boring. But then when you get it all cut, it'll be one continuous strip. Just, I like to fold mine in half and press it, and then stitch it on with a 1/4 inch seam allowance onto my quilt. And that's all there is to making this binding. And I've been doing it like this for years, and I've been very, very happy with it. Let's see. We are going to mark our quilt top. So I'll be right back. I gotta get my markers. Trying to keep you from falling over. Okay, so on these, I have been quilting in the ditch on the heart, so I don't need to mark that. I'm not sure. I'm thinking, I normally do the background in a grid, and I think I've been doing 1 inch. I think I'm going to go drop it down to, I like the smaller one. The pink one was a bit smaller than this one. This one was a 1 inch grid, and I think that one was a 3/4, and I like that one better. So I'm just going to go from corner to corner. Keep this, actually let me move this out of the way totally for flat surface. I'm just going to kind of line this up with the corner down here and this seam line, and I'm going right through this corner and this corner, so I know I got it square. And this is a heat erasable pen, and I have used it on this fabric before, so I know it does go. And then this will be, I just stitch in the ditch around just outside of the flying geese, and been doing anything in the geese, just the grid outside of it. And I'm not sure since I'm doing the dark brown on the outside edge, I think I'm going to leave that and do a little something different. So then I'm going to go this way on this side, make sure I get from the point of that goose, these, and that square, and run my line this way. And then I'm just going to go every 3/4 of an inch. Let's do this. I mean, you can quilt this any way you want. I just thought I would show you, whoops, wiggle a little bit here, that I would show you how I do it. And I've been very pleased with the way it comes out. Anyway, I just go on and mark this, and I do stitch just on the very outside of the line around the heart. And then, like I say, I go in and I do at least stitch in the ditch. I may play around with doing each section a little teeny bit different design, because I do, these small ones, I do quilt on my baby lock. It's got a big enough bed that I can, I lower the feed dogs and put my other foot on for free motion, and away we go. So just do this all the way this way, then I'll turn it and do it the opposite way to get my grid. And we'll layer it, and I got to go find a cool backing for it. And I will show you the finished product next week. But before we go, I do want to tell you what we're going to work on next week. Next week is Hexies, and I have a bunch of small projects. So if you've never done Hexies and have always wanted to give them a try, these little projects will be fun things to do. I showed you my bowl. This is there's 4 sizes in the package. This is the one that's made with 1.5 inch hexie. And you do, I'm doing one again. I pulled my stitching out. I am doing one again that is the same size, but I'm making the binding just slightly larger. It's about the same size. And these, I do quilt each individual hexie before I sew them together. The one I'm working on now, I will show you on next Tuesday. I am going to zigzag them together here around the bottom center one, and I will zigzag them out to the point so that all 6 around will be machine stitched. I do stitch the binding down on the machine. And then the only thing you have to do is stitch by hand, is to stitch these edges together by hand. And I am working on doing some kind of a cross stitch, so in a pretty thread, so it looks pretty and holds it all together. And each one of the bowls come with 8 hexies, so if you want to put a lid on it, you can do that. I'll show you how to do that. So that's one of the projects I'm going to show you. I am doing journal covers with hexies. I will show you that. I have a couple table toppers that are small that you can play around with. They come with a design sheet in the pattern, so you can do your own design. What else? I am doing hexies on a shirt to make it a little bit more of a jacket. I am doing hexies on a sweatshirt for the pouch. I'm making a pouch with hexies, and there'll probably be a little, I'm thinking of doing something on the cuffs, so hopefully I'll have that one done and show you. So anyway, a lot of little projects to show you. We do 90% of our hexies on the machine. I never finished a hand project doing hexies before, and I have finished numerous projects doing them on the machine. They just go so much faster, and I like the look of them much better. And our foundations, you do not have to take them out, and they don't add any weight or bulk, but they do keep everything. It gives it just a teeny bit of firmness. Always when I would do start a hexie project and get far enough along that I could pop the templates out of the middle ones, it lost all its all the stability to it. It would go wonky, and I'm not into that. So with ours, it does, like I say, it doesn't add any weight or bulk, but it does keep everything in its shape. And I did learn, I used to hand base them or machine base them, the foundation to the backside of the excuse me, to the backside of the fabric. And then I found this awesome uh, basting spray that it'll hold while you cut them out, sew them together. I actually have some that have been sitting around for months that the foundation is spray basted to the back of the fabric, and they've been trimmed, and they've been sitting in a little carton that I keep them in, and they're still adhered. But when you press them, steam press them, the basting spray goes away. So it doesn't make them stiff. It doesn't make them sticky. Um, I mean, it's a temporary adhesive. So I have fallen in love with that because it's so much faster. And what was the other thing? Oh yeah, for the journal covers, I have several different. I'll share this with you. I have several different themes that I'm doing, and some will be kitted. And anyway, I know we'll be doing the hexy stuff next week. And I just saw somebody post on Facebook this morning. Has anybody ever put hexies on a jean jacket? Well, I have a brand new jean jacket, and I am going to mess around and see about putting hexies on it. Not very many, just enough to kind of spice it up a little bit. So I think that's pretty much it. I haven't definitely decided on projects for the following 2 weeks, but I will have an agenda done and things ready and share that with you, share the projects with you. So if you want to sew along, you can be ready. You'll have a couple weeks or a week or two notice. So if you want to sew along with me, you can do that. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. So I will have this done and share it with you Tuesday. And hope everybody has a great weekend. Since it's raining, I have a perfect excuse to stay in the studio and do a lot of sewing. So I'm happy. Um, anyway, hope to see you all on Tuesday, noon to 2, Tuesday, Thursdays, and Saturdays. Tell your friends. Don't don't forget to send me an email of something if you have questions or whatever that I can address during the show. If it requires me to do a little sample, that will give me time to get it put together so I can make it clear for you and go from there. Anyway, everybody have a great weekend. See you Tuesday. Bye.